beautiful people. So now I'm in Cape Coast, the actual coast. I came to the Elmina Castle, and this is how the view looks.
All right, you're welcome. My name is Nathaniel. Yes, and I'll be your tour guide for today. And this tour is a walking tour, and it will last for 45 minutes to an hour. Afternoon. But before we start with the walking tour, I like to give a brief history about this castle. In Ghana alone, we have three castles and many forts. We have the Cape Coast Castle, built by the British in 1665. We have the Christianborg Castle, built by the Danes in 1661, and the last, the Elmina Castle, by the Portuguese in 1482. But today, our attention will be on the Elmina Castle. This castle is called St. George's Castle, popularly known as Elmina Castle, built by the Portuguese in 1482. But they arrived here in 1471 for three main reasons: to trade, to spread the Christianity, and to extend their territories outside Europe. So, whilst they were coming here, they came along with some of their European goods: tobaccos, gunpowder, schnapps, used clothes. With the exchange, the goods we have here: ivory, spices, and gold. And this form of trade was called the barter trading. So, through the normal supply of gold, the locals were given to the Portuguese. They had the impression that this town has a lot of gold. So, rather, they named this town Almina. Almina in the Portuguese language, meaning the mine. But through the pronunciation of the name Almina by the locals, the name was corrupted into Elmina. But the original name of this town, before the arrival of the Portuguese, was called Anomansan. Anomansan simply means inexhaustible supply of water. With a Portuguese leader called Don Diego de Zambuja and the 600 men, they started building a castle. Initially, the king at that time, called Anakwamenansa, was not ready to give them a plot of land. He felt that culture differences might be a problem in the future, but upon persuasion and assurance, they gave them a plot of land there and they built the castle for two main reasons: as a trade post where they can store their European goods, and also rooms for their missionaries to continue spreading the Christianity until 1500, where the attention shifted into slave trade. Why? Because at that time, the Spaniard they had entered into the New World. So they were using the red Indies for the plantation and mining. But due to the brutality of the work and some of the European diseases, they were dying. So there's one Catholic missionary called Bartholomew de las Cascas who suggested that Africans supposed to be for the plantation and mining. That's why the attention shifted into slave trade. But 1471 wasn't the first time Europeans having a contact with Africans. 1441, they have been in Senegal. So Senegal, they took 10 men to Portugal. 10 men they took. Three of them said to be a noble bargain. So they need to brought them back. And brought them back, they give the Portuguese ivory, spices, and gold. So 1441 in Senegal, 1471 in Ghana. That's why people have perception that they never built the castle here for barter trade alone, rather slave trade. Because in 1441, they taking people before they came here in 1471. 1596, the Dutch made their first attempt to capture the castle from the seaside. They failed. 1612, they will build their fort in a town called Mori, 25 kilometers from here. They were trading with the locals over there. They had a profit. The Portuguese were getting from the trade. 1625, they were making a second attempt. They also failed. Locals here became fed up with the Portuguese. Locals felt that when the Dutch took over the castle, they're going to stop slave trade. So whenever locals in 1637, from the inland attack, they were able to capture the castle. But when the Dutch took over the castle here, they expanded the castle and started taking more slaves. 1807, British abolished slave trade. 1814, the Dutch did the same thing. But those who were doing actual thing never stopped. So until 1872, where they abolished slave trade. When they abolished slave trade, the castle became unprofitable to the Dutch. Rather, the Dutch had to swap possession with the British. Dutch took over British, one of their forts in northern Sumatra, Indonesia, and British took over the castle. But when the British took over the castle, they never used this castle for slave trade. They were using the Cape Coast castle for slave trade. Here, the British used the castle purposely for administration center, where at the time of the Second World War, they recruited young men from all West African English-speaking countries, brought them to the castle here, trained them, and sent them to Burma and India to fight for them. and we call them Royal West African Frontier Force. After the Second World War, the same castle was used as a police training school. In 1957, when Ghana gained independence, they took over the castle. So the time of the Portuguese, they used this castle here for 155 years. The Dutch 235, British 85, and Ghana have used the castle for 67. So as at now, this castle is 542 years old. First and the largest European building in sub-Saharan Africa. In 1979, it was designated as a World Heritage Site by the UNESCO. To the introduction of the talk. Any question? And also, this building we find ourselves here used to be a church built by the Portuguese. They were Catholics, but when the Dutch captured the castle, the Dutch were Protestants. But the Dutch never used this church, rather, they will build their own church on top of one of the female slave dungeons. And this church they divided into two. The top room as their soldiers' mess, where their soldiers eat and drink, and the down room as an auction room where they buy slaves. But when the British took over the castle, the same place was turned into police training school. But right now, it's a museum. And this is the castle, and this is the fort, Fort St. Jago, built by the Dutch in 1665. So we have locals in 1607 from the inland attack. They captured the castle. When they captured the castle, they built a fort over the top there to protect the castle from any attacks. That's why the Dutch spent more years than any other European countries. And also, the castle was built in phases. Portuguese started building a castle. When the Dutch took over, they continue. So in the castle, whenever you see the red bricks, it's from Portugal, and the yellow bricks here is from Dutch. When they were coming here, they came along with these bricks to give balance to their ships. But when they were turning back, human beings replace the balance. Once you are done with the introduction, we are going to start our walking tour from the female section of the dungeon. So please, let's move on. Hey, all right. So, at the time of the barter trade, that's where they keep in the European goods, the down rooms. That's where they keep in the European goods. But when the attention shifted into slave trade, the down rooms was converted into dungeons. So the peak of the slave trade, 600 men were set among the rooms are down here. And the top rooms here is where the priest, the merchant, and the soldiers were living. The last baton room is for the deputy governor, and the last room is for the governor himself. So in the castle here, your position depends on where you live. Now your position, how you're going to live. In the top here, we have a two watchtower, right? The top there. The watchtower was built by the Dutch to protect the castle from any attacks, whenever they attack. But when the British took over the castle, the two watchtower was turned into a prison where they held one of the Ashanti's king called Anajman Prempeh in 1896 from here to Freetown, from Freetown to Shores. But later on, he came back to Ghana to continue the throne. They also held one of the Queen Mother, Yasantua, in 1900, from here to Freetown, from Freetown to Shores. But Yasantua died there. 100 years anniversary of Yasantua, her remains was brought back to Ejoso, the hometown in Ashanti region, to be buried back. The reason of capturing Yasantua was that the Ashantis, they believed that the golden stool unified them. And the British won't take the golden stool. So they did fake golden stool to the British. That's why they was captured and sent to Freetown as an exile. And also the king now supposed to pay 50 ounces of gold to the British government. So he refused to pay half of the money. So that's why he was captured and sent to Freetown. But later when he came back to Ghana to continue through. So once you are done, you are going to move to the female section of the dungeon. So please, let's move. At the female section of the dungeon, and all the rooms here combined total for 400 women, and the male side 600. So every 3 months, 1,000 human beings were taken to the new world, and the slave trade lasted for 400 years. 3 months in the sense that at that time the ship can arrive early, but the number of human beings, you need to particular man to get of them. So petrol or diesel was not available at that time. So the ships would depend on the wind to travel. 100 women were kept here for 3 months. When we check the length and the breadth of these dungeons here, was not meant for human beings to sleep here, but to sit, because there's no space for you to just relax yourself. The doors was enclosed with bars. We are moving to the largest female slave dungeon. Kept here, yes. 100. Yes. Yes. For 3 months. Yes. Yeah? Yes, I was playing. So it means you're not able to stand, you're always seated. No, because there's no space for you to just relax. Yes, yes. For 3 months. Yeah, you could. Sorry. Yeah. No, people brought it to pay homage to our ancestors. Like people died here. All right. So the largest female slave dungeon, about 150 were kept here. When the women were brought in the dungeons here, they were not allowed to go outside the dungeons. So containers was placed in the corner of the room for them to ease themselves. But being in the dungeons here for 1 to 2 months, sleeping on the hard floor, most of the women became weak. Some of the women were not from Ghana alone. Some were captured in Nigeria, Burkina Faso, Togo. Walking from that distance, crossing rivers, mountains, when they reached here, they became weak to the extent that they were able to have an access to those containers. Rather, they were doing everything on the floor. Defecating, urine, vomiting, eating, menstrual period here, sleeping here for 3 months before the ship arrived. So once the door was closed with bars, this whole year used to be a source of ventilation for them. At the same time, where they were keeping their guns and gunpowder, so whenever there's a leakage from that side, the fuels come here straight here and wasting their already conditions. And we all say that may those who died, may their soul rest in perfect. Water reservoir built by the Portuguese. So the tube was connected whenever it rains. They store the water here for domestic use. But when the Europeans came here, they never came along with their wives because they were dying out of malaria and yellow fever to the extent that the coastal line of Africa was termed as a white mangrove. So because of that, they never came along with their wives. Rather, they were abusing the women. The various dungeons here. The governor with the position will stand back on here, direct the soldier to bring some of the women into the courtyard here. The governor will select the selected women because you have been in the dungeon for a month. You need to be brought here and wash. After washing here, they lead to the staircase to the governor's bedroom to be raped. Yeah. Yes, they no use drink, washing and everything. Like no. They, they drink. Yes, it's a reservoir for them. All right, so this is the staircase where the selected women passed to the governor's bedroom to be raped. But when the ship arrived for the 3 months' time, due to the rape, some of the women became pregnant. So those who are pregnant, they will build a break house for them. outside the castle. When they delivered, they brought the children there and they gave them formal education. And they are the mulattoes, the mixed race children, and they bear their father's name. So in the coastal land of Africa, that's where the Europeans' name started coming. You have names like Johnson, Ferguson, Wilson, the year, and what have you. But they kept the children here for their own benefit. Through education, they brainwashed them that they're not Africans because of the skin color. So the children continue becoming the governors, soldiers, and merchants. And some of the women refused, literally by the governor. So they punished them. Let's see the punishment they gave to them. All right, so the cannonball, it weighs 25 kg. At that time, having the 8 cannonball over here, those who refused noted by the governor, chains or shackles was connected to the cannonball with your hands or your legs. You be standing here from morning to evening, raining or shining, without giving food or water. Will become weak from here to the governor's bedroom to be raped, to serve as an example for the women in the various dungeons here. Whenever the governor called, you need to be raped. Yes, yes, to serve as an example for us because they refuse not to go. So that's whenever you refuse, yes, so you're not going to refuse again. Because some of them were married already, right? So they want to live a chaste life. Yes. Please come here. Is it short food there? I told you. Oh, okay. Oh. All right. We are the one of the female slave dungeon. 150 were kept here. Actually, I said the castle was built in phases. Portuguese started building. When the Dutch took over, they continue. So the castle, whenever you see the red bricks, it's from Portugal. This is the original floor. British, yes. So as I said that British, when they abolished slave trade, they swapped possession with the Dutch. They took over Dutch, one of their forts in northern Sumatra, Indonesia, and British took over the castle. So British used the castle purposely for administration. But you said they were using the Cape Coast Castle for slave trade. No, at that time, so when they at the time the peak of the slave trade, right, the Dutch, Portuguese were here. And the Cape Coast Castle is for the Sweden, British. But when they abolished slave trade, they bought the castle or in charge of swapping possession with them. So when they took over, that and they abolished it. So they used this castle here purposely for administration. So when they took over this castle, they stopped the slave trade. At that time they abolished it. It was not function. Yes. Yes, it wasn't function. No, I said they were using the Cape Coast Castle for slave trade. Because yes, because yes, because this castle they built purposely to do barter trade until 1500. Do you get what I'm trying to say? Yes, started with barter trade, spreading Christianity, right? Until 1500, where their attention shifted from barter trade to slave trade. But the Cape Coast Castle was built purposely for slave trade. Okay, so could it be that the original purpose was for slave trade? That's why I said that 1441 they were in Senegal. Yes, yes, I said 1441 they were in Senegal, and Senegal they were already taking people from Senegal to Portugal until they came here in 1471. Yes, they know, they knew the African strength already. So coming here is to do slave trade, but they started with the barter trade and also spread the Christianity. You know, Christianity preaches goodwill. When you find someone, you need to forgive the person. Yes. So it will make you like, yes, you're not going to respond to. And also, there's a lot of ways the Europeans were used to capture our ancestors. First of all, they're using force capturing human beings by force. But Africans were fighting against. So the attention shifted into raid and attacks. They will set fire in your homes. Whilst you're moving outside, they capture with a gunpoint. And some of the Africans were working with Europeans to gather Africans. But people do come in that Africans were selling their own family members, which is never true because at that time, family members was limited to a tribe, lineage, or a kingdom. So once you're not part of the kingdom or tribe, they see you as an outsider. So two tribes having a war, when one able to defeat the other tribe, They became a prisoner of war and selling to European, their own tribe people. That brought in a lot of slaves to European because they came to conquer already divided people. Just have a gun and gunpowder, you can arrange an attack with another tribe and be selling to Europeans as slaves. This mentality of African to become one, it's just recent. At that time, once you're not part of the tribe or lineage, they see you as an outsider to their tribe. So the bricks, as I said, that the red one, right, represent the Portuguese, right, and the yellow one is from Dutch. When they were coming here, they came along with these bricks to give balance to their ships. But when they were returning back, human beings replaced the balance. Which one? No, as I said that when they were coming, they came with two. Uh-huh. Yes. No, so what I'm trying to say is like the castle, right? They built the castle with the bricks, with our own palm oil and the seashell. That's what they mixed to build the castle. So when they were coming, at the time when they were coming initially, 1471, they were living in their various ships until the king gave them permission to build the castle. So coming back, they came with the bricks, which is initially the Portuguese started, right? So they came with their bricks to build the castle. But when the Dutch captured the castle and took over, the building of the castle was continued by the Dutch. Yes, it's a continuation of the. Yeah. You get it? Yeah. Please, any question? Yes, and also I'll come there. 2015, a program was held here to dramatize what happened to our ancestors. So the clothes here, those who dramatized, 44 Africans came here to dramatize. So that's what they put in there the privy parts here, not put to see for just some 12 hours. But this is not already just recently. And the ritual, people believes that because when you go to the burial ground, people they go with the rites to pay homage to our ancestors at the same time to because one test survive the various dungeons say that's why visitors will bring it to like us to pay homage to our ancestors. Yeah. So this one just recently, and also at the time of the dramatization, this one served as a source of light for them. No, it wasn't light here. So just imagine being in a dark place for 3 months. You even go blind. Yeah. Yes. Yes. And back to your question, people believe that the slave trade, right, was a profit to the Europeans. But why that treatment? Africans were very strong enough. So it's a system to suppress you so that they can't fight back. Once you are strong enough, or once you are weak, you're not going to fight back. Because the Africans were revolting against the rights. So they're not going to feed you well. You'll be in the dungeon for 3 months, feeding process, everything on the floor for 3 months. So you go in and you can't fight back. And also they need strong people to work at the plantation. So no matter what you go through, you're only able to survive. It means that you can work at the plantation. That's why they're giving them that treatment. And also, this is the original bus for 542 years old. But because it has rusted, we have replaced it with wood. Yes. And also, this is the original wood. This one and this three. Apart from that, there have been changes on the wood. Yeah. 2005, they did the changes on the wood. Is there any question? Yeah, this one too is all. Yes. Yeah. Yes, yes. Please, you're moving on. All right. So in the various dungeons here, one third survived. Those who survived here, when a ship arrived, that is the passage to the door of no return. At the time of the slave trade, there was a staircase here to the door of no return. But when the British took over the castle, they never used this castle for slave trade. So they removed the staircase over here and turned this place as drainage. Whenever it rains, water passes here to the door of no return. Today we're not going to use this side to the door of no return. We're going to use the main side to the door of no return. All right, so this is a plug in the memory of one of the Dutch governor. This is an old Dutch. The governor was called Tet. He died of malaria and was buried here. So that time there was a priest here called A. Andres. He wrote this thing in the memory of that governor. And what he was saying is that the governor is honest, God fearing. So question people do come in that at the time of the slave trade. There was a priest here, and someone God fearing. It's only God who can judge. From here, we have a two separate cell. We have the European cell and the condemned cell. We are going to compare the two cells. Say, so, so, all right, so the Europeans for the corrupted soldiers. You know, some of the soldiers was from Europe were ex-convicts. So once you're an ex-convict, you're not allowed to go outside the castle. But life at the castle was boring. Most of them went out without reporting. When you are caught here, you are brought here for some hours. So you know one died here. You can see the ventilation is okay here. We are going to compare it to the condemned cell for the Africans. You can see the scars in the see the scars in the it means that yeah. All right, so the condemned cell, we are experiencing the two cells, so I'm going to lock it. I'm looking for some 5 hours after that. Yeah. So condemned cell, yeah, condemned cell for the African freedom fighters. Those who want to free themselves from various dungeons. When you are caught, you are brought here without giving food or water. When you died, you are thrown into the ocean. So you know one came in here and survived. Imagine 20 people were kept here. The person beside you is no more. You are waiting for your own death. This hole here is not a source of ventilation. This is a peephole. When someone died, they come and peep and throw the body into the ocean. So no one came in here and survived. So they wait for everyone to die? No, no, no. When that's what I say, peephole. When someone died, they come and peep. So when they're able to see that the person is no more, they're able to like yes. But if not, unless you wait for those who beside you to die before you. Male slave dungeon. 150 men were kept here. The men were in shackles or chains, but the female were in tags for identification. This room here is a branding room or identification room. Some of the ships normally come along with two merchants in one ship. So they need to identify our ancestors. Metal was put in hot fire with their symbols identified like a tattoo, your back or your chest. Most of them died under the stress from the hot metal. In the top here is a feeding point because the soldiers are afraid that when they enter into dungeons here, the men will attack them. So they're feeding them from top here. They will drop the food. You need to fight for your own food. At the time of the slave trade, yes. So at the time of the slave trade, at the time of the slave trade, we are one of the merchants, Mr. and Mrs. Barclays. After the slave trade, they opened the Barclays Bank. From here, we are moving to the door of no return. Slave exit to waiting boat. Please, you have a torchlight, I can use it. You know, so one step at a time. We have bow down small, one step at a time. One step, you bow down, and one step. Your boss, a source of ventilation. Yes, yes. You bow down, you bow down. This is the original staircase where the surviving women passed to the door of no return. But when the British took over the castle, they removed the staircase over here and turned this place as drainage. Whenever it rains, water passes here to the door of no return. This particular room is where family members can meet. They can capture a whole family at the time of war. When they brought into dungeons here, they separated them because of procreation. But when the ship arrived, the female passed here and the male passed here. They all meet here to the door of no return. So, able to survive in the various dungeons here, it's possible that you can meet your wife here, your children here, a friend you know for the last time from here to the door of no return. Please, you back down.
Bend down low. Bend down low.
No, no.
Oh, is that good?
So wait, another question. They've been sitting down for 3 months. How would they? Okay, Charlie.
No, so but you need to understand that,
Just to touch at them.
like, how they see human being, they see it as a commodity. Yes. So yes. I said they see human being as a commodity. Yeah, like, so like yes. That's like mentally, like they don't believe that you're a human being.
Yeah, they don't.
Because initially you are a black person.
And they are white.
Yes, they see they are superior than you. All right. So this is the door of no return. I'm going to give you a minute to take your pictures. After that, I'll explain something there. Yeah. So this is the door of no return. At the time of the slave trade, the sea was closer to the castle, but due to the rotation of the earth, the sea has receded back. So smaller boats will be coming here and taking them to the waiting ship. From here, the Portuguese were taking a slave to Brazil, Ecuador, Panama, Honduras. The Dutch were taking a slave to America, Suriname, Guyana, Jamaica, Haiti, and what have you. When they were trading, which is the time of the barter trade, the door was larger. But when the attention shifted into slave trade, they just narrowed the door. For easy counting, and easy control of our ancestors, because they'll be in the shackles to be counting one by one into the ship. Because the same thing, the door was larger at the time of the barter trade. But when the attention shifted into slave trade, they just narrowed the door. Yes. And now back here, we Africans believe that our ancestors, their spirits are still here. So whenever it comes here, we pour libation to them. And we all say that may those who died, may their soul rest in perfect peace. And from today going, this door is no more a door of no return. This is a door of return. They're going to return back because you're no more slaves. This trap of the slave trade or the castle, we can't use a day to tell because Africans have been enslaved by the Arab groups and Northern Berbers for 1,300 years before the Europeans came here. You know, so Africans have their own history and identity. Because we can't use a day to tell our own history, I recommend some book for you about the slave trade castle. From today going in, this door is no door of no return. We are going to return back to where we came from. Please, let's bow down. Let's move inside. Juna, my glasses were there. So one of the office, yeah, right at the cash shop. All right, so their boardroom where they held meetings, and there's the books I was talking about. We have the cry and lamentation of ancestors. This one talking about the two slave trade, the triangle slave trade, and also silent slave by the Arab groups and the small base. Next, we have indigenous slave in Ghana. You know, Africans have their own indentured servants. You owe someone, you can't pay. You go with someone to sell. So it's different what Europeans introduce us. So this is the books. Let's have a look. That's the books out.
So the government's kitchen built by the Portuguese. But when the Dutch captured the castle, they never used this kitchen, or they built their own kitchen. So Portuguese kitchen.
That's kitchen. Trust issues.
It's everywhere.